second area of friction is in the technological competition. There is an increasing number of countries that are developing green industrial policies. And that's not only in the developed world, the US, the EU, South Korea, Japan, Australia, and it's also in the emerging markets. And besides China, India, the major countries in Latin America, many other countries in Asia, and some countries in Africa. There are essentially three reasons to develop these policies. One is, and that's mostly the focus in the US, it's a desire to decouple from China in at least the higher end, the most advanced domain, the domains that will be the foundation of future growth. That's mostly the US view. There is another reason to de-risk to this industrial policy, which is a desire to de-risk from the China risk. And that's mostly the EU's approach. And then for everyone else, it's, the opportunity to create new jobs, to create high-end jobs, to create good-paying jobs. And, everybody wants a piece of that. In terms of technology, there are three domains where China is seen as a threat, or as, owning a pie that others would like to have a bite of. And it's first of all, in the chips technology. So chips are necessary for a number of green processes like EVs, smart city, electrical grids. The US wants to curtail China's development in that arena, particularly in the high-end chips arena, and has imposed sweeping export controls and restrictions for that. The second risk, in the chips arena is the fact that a good chunk of the global manufacturing capability is located in Taiwan, which is very exposed, obviously, to the China risk. So we are seeing the US has taken definitely a lead in pushing the world to relocate, first to curtail China's access to the higher end technology, but also in relocating or dislocating the chips production away from Taiwan and back to the US. The second arena is in the solar panels and wind turbines. So it is well known that China is the major manufacturer and producer of solar panels. Is probably somewhere like 80 to 90% of global production. It is also a major player in wind turbines. 7 out of the 10 largest manufacturers are Chinese. The location of the production is also a problem for at least for the West, because most of the Chinese PV production is located in Xinjiang, where China is implementing genocidal policies, which makes clients vulnerable to compliance and reputational risks. An additional risk is that because of China's weight on this market, it may be tempted to weaponize this against the West. The Chinese government wondered out loud a couple of weeks ago, toyed with the idea of restricting the exports of solar panels in response to the US chips export controls. So that if they move on that, that would, of course, dent the Biden administration's IRA ambitions. And the last piece of, competition in technologies on the EV batteries. Again, China is a major producer here. They have the dominant player in the market is a company called CATL. It's Chinese, it's government owned. The EU and the US are deploying, have been deploying massive incentives, but at this stage, it's hard to disengage completely from CATL. Ford, for example, has made an alliance with CATL to build, EV batteries in the US, which is controversial. The governor of Virginia refused the implantation of Ford's factory in Hampton Roads because CATL is Chinese owned. So the plant is going to Michigan. So for now, the multiplication of government, Western government or national incentives is great for manufacturers. It's incentives galore. They can shop around, for the best incentive package. They can pit, location A against location B, in a bid to get even more than what governments are willing to put on the table. But these, positive immediate incentives may lead manufacturers to overlook more midterm risks. And I think here, the implementation of TSMC in Arizona will give us some interesting lessons to follow. TSMC has plans to relocate, water-hungry chip factories in water-depressed Arizona. This, you have to wonder whether, that timeline is really taken into account in their planning.